I actually got round to recording part 2. I'm actually sticking with a YouTube series I've done. How about that? Anyway, it's Hilltop Zone, which is very blatantly an Emerald Hill palette swap. And it's not even like it was a late addition to the game to pad out the zones. Hilltop Zone actually appeared in the earliest known prototype of Sonic 2, which is generally referred to as the Nick Arcade version, or Nick Arcade prototype. And yeah, so it's not even like the zone's a late addition to the game, it's a very early addition to the game. In fact, it may even be mentioned on early game design documents that have been shown off relatively recently, perhaps a few months ago. At a talk about, I think it was about Sonic 2. I don't remember the details, but I remember the documents and art that was shown off, and it was a really interesting insight as to certain things about Sonic 2's development. But enough of random trivia that no one cares about. On to talking about the obscure gameplay? No? I don't know. Well, Hilltop Zone itself. It's basically Emerald Hill with lava, and lifts, and different enemies. The thing is, despite being so clearly a palette swap of Emerald Hill, it doesn't really play like Emerald Hill, even though a lot of the chunks are the same, which is quite impressive. And here we see an earthquake section, which happens in both acts, but this one you can kind of cheese your way through it with the invincibility. That's how I always do it. So, yeah. And yeah, the signpost here is very awkwardly placed. Very far to the right. I'm not quite sure why. But that was Act 1. On to Act 2. And yeah, let's go to the upper path. I almost always try to go to the upper path in Hilltop. But as you'll see, I failed at staying on it today, for some reason. Also, Tails is very good at messing up these seesaws and knocking you into the bad mix. And yeah, mistimed jumps cause me to go lower route, which is wonderful. But hey, physics that you get up to a slightly higher route, except not really, because I think this is just the lower route again. Which is shown further when I get to the earthquake section of Act 2, because I'm in the lower part of the earthquake. In fact, it's right here. I normally try to go the upper route because the upper route has a much easier earthquake section. Not that this is hard, it's just the upper route's even easier. Yeah, it's just very simple platforming. And a level design set piece that wouldn't look out of place in Sonic CD later, and I don't know, Hilltop Zone is never one of my favourite levels. It's just kind of there. It's not bad, but you know, I'd much rather play Chemical Plant or Casino Night or you know. But it's far from the worst in the game. I decided to go back because I had 99 rings, so I couldn't help myself in terms of getting an extra life. So here we go, Hilltop boss, very easy, but having Tails there will mess you up like that because Tails will jump to hit Eggman and cause you to fall into the lava. If you don't have Tails, you can actually get 8 hits on Eggman. Unfortunately, I like to have Tails tagging along with me, which does mess up that boss. Anyway, that was Hilltop Zone. It's alright. But onto one of my favourite zones of Sonic 2, Mystic Cave. It's normally what I describe as the point where the game gets harder, but yeah, it's about halfway through the game, and is pretty much the point where difficulty does start ramping up, but I think it's one of the better zones in the game personally, at least one of my favourite zones. Anyway, there's just something memorable and cool about it, although there is an infamous pit in Act 2 which I will be avoiding, because I knew if I went down that route I would, that even if I went there to show it off, I would have likely ended up falling into it by accident. So to explain, while I've got time, there's a spike pit in Act 2 which basically traps you right at the bottom of a pit with spikes. It's not a bottomless pit, but if you fall down there you're not getting out. Unless you're playing like as Knuckles or as Tails in the Christian Whitehead remake. We'll go more on that in a second. But you can't get out, so you just gotta keep losing your rings and wait for death. And if you're supersonic while you're down there, well, you gotta wait for your rings to tick down until you die. Fun fact, in an early prototype that part of the level actually had a spring in it, I believe, which let you get out of the pit, I think. Not 100% sure. But in the Christian Whitehead remake, I'll call them that. Stealth was also involved in the remakes, but yeah, in the 2013 remake, the pit actually leads to Hidden Palace Zone, which was a dummied out zone in Sonic 2, which I'm sure everyone knows about, and the information is easily readable on Sonic Retro, so I'm not going to explain it again. Apart from the fact that it was just a really cool feature, and I was extremely excited when they announced it. I mean, as I said before, the mobile versions of Sonic 1 and 2 are the best versions to play. You know, apart from the touch controls being awkward sometimes. Oh yeah, and there's a random checkpoint there for no reason. Apart from maybe getting a special stage. Yeah, the mobile versions of Sonic 1 and 2 are the best. The only issue is touch controls, but I genuinely get on alright with the touch controls in them. That was just me being dumb. I wasn't quite feeling the jump. But yeah. Oh, and here you get to see me fail at avoiding that obstacle twice in a row. I know it's there, I still run into it. I swear I'm usually good at these games. But yeah, I at least managed to avoid falling into spikes there. And the reason I spin dashed there was because in Sonic Mania you can actually spin dash like that and you will hit the item box below you. But here we have the boss of Mystic Cave. It's another drill machine, because the first drill machine was so effective. And if I managed to get the jump on Eggman with instead of getting hit and losing my shield, I might actually beat him on the first pass. Because I only had one more hit to do. Oh well. Now if this was Sonic 3, or Mania, the elemental shields might have bounced away the little stalactites. But alas, this is not Sonic 3 or Sonic Mania. Although the mobile versions of Sonic 2 do have a hidden option to enable the Sonic 3 shields. Anyways, that was Mr. Cave. This is Oil Ocean. Our last zone for this part, because adding the chocolate zone onto this would extend the part by about 20 minutes. Oh, and I keep this death in because I thought it was funny. I tried to cheat the level by going underneath. I failed at it. I could have cut it out, like I cut out a chemical plant death, but I didn't want to, because I thought it was amusing because I was dumb. Either way, Oil Ocean, never a zone I thought of very highly. There's a lot of annoying enemies, like that, and stage design isn't my favourite. But I will say the reimagining of Oil Ocean in Sonic Mania was fantastic, especially Act 2, which mixed in the Sendopolis Act 2 gimmick, and music that sounds like it came right from Shantae. But then again, the entire Sonic Mania soundtrack was phenomenal. Not to discredit the Mega Drive games, I thought they also all have brilliant and memorable soundtracks. I mean, they're iPod worthy, so then again I have almost every Sonic soundtrack on my iPod, so it doesn't really infer much. Note to self: control your breathing while recording commentary a bit better. If that note to self sounds a bit weird out of context, it's because I keep having to move my face away from the microphone to breathe out. Because I don't want the microphone to pick up too many breathing sounds, although I do try to edit it at least a bit. But hey, here's a bit of level that I don't see very often because I forget that it exists. Basically, there's a one-up box that you'll often just go right past in the cannons, but it's possible to get it. I mean, if it was impossible to get it, why would they put it there? Well, I say that, but there are many rings that are impossible to get because they're just inside level geometry. But would line up with prototype level design quite well. It's kind of weird seeing those things rotate with only a few frames compared to how they are in Sonic Mania and the 2013 remaster, where they rotate smoothly. A lot of seeing Oil Ocean here is kind of just comparing it to its Mania counterpart. Hey, I got an extra life and a continue. I know I'm going to need it later on in the run because I do use a lot of lives at one point. But yeah, Oil Ocean is kind of the part of the game where it starts to lose me nowadays. Like, I never stop playing because if I decide to play Sonic 2, then I have decided to set aside the time to play the whole game. But Oil Ocean and all the zones after, they all have their degrees of annoyingness. That's not a good way of putting it, but I'm going to stick to my words. Hey, English was my weakest GCSE, so it doesn't really matter. But yeah, there's plenty of awkward level and object layouts in Oil Ocean, and zones after this, well, the zone after this can have downright diabolical enemy placement. And it does, frequently, unfortunately. And here we see me falling down the low part of the level, so I had to climb back up to where I was. And spoiler alert, I fall down again, so I had to go around this route again. Because I'm so good at this game, apparently. Yeah, I'm normally not too bad at the game. In fact, my older runs probably went better than this. Back in 2013. I still almost can't believe it's been 5 years since I tried to do YouTube stuff in the past. And there I go, falling again. Feels like it was so long ago, yet also not that long ago at all. That me and my friends met up to do YouTube recording sessions. For a time we actually kept to a weekly schedule of uploading on Fridays. But that was when we were back at secondary school and we actually had the time to do things like that. Now I'm at university and I shouldn't really have the time to do this, but I do because I'm sitting here at 1 AM because I have no control over when I go to sleep, apparently. Yeah. Oh, and Tails is briefly, yep, Tails is doing that glitch where he just sort of slides around awkwardly. And he went in front of level, like, of background chunks. I've never seen that glitch happen in Oil Ocean Zone. I've seen it happen in Casino Night a few times. But here's another boss where Eggman is submerged in some sort of substance. And the remake of this boss in Sonic Mania got a lot of people dying a lot. And apart from playing as Knuckles, I don't find it too hard in Sonic Mania, but the Sonic 2 counterpart is extraordinarily easy. But that was the end of Royal Ocean, which means the end of this part. Hopefully it came out within a week of the previous part, and hopefully the next part after this comes out a week after this roughly. But I'll see you in the next part.